Good morning, everyone. There's a different kind of glow that no skincare routine, green smoothie, or 10-step morning ritual can produce. It's not about collagen or lighting or filter tricks. It's the kind of radiance that starts deep in the bones of your being, the glow that happens when you are living in alignment with your soul. People might say, "You look amazing. What's your secret?" And the real answer, the quiet one you maybe only whisper to yourself, is this: I stopped betraying myself. Alignment isn't about perfection, it's about truth. It's about recognizing the quiet dissonance between who you are and how you're living, and deciding that you're no longer willing to carry that weight. That misalignment ages us more than time ever could. It creates stress, burnout, resentment, emotions that sit in the body and leave a trace. The moment we begin to close that gap between soul and self, something softens, something lifts, the face relaxes, the eyes brighten, and the energy shifts. That's the kind of youth no one can manufacture. It's earned. Let's talk about what that actually looks like. Alignment is when the life you live on the outside starts to mirror the truths you hold on the inside. Maybe it's finally saying no to the job that drains you, or the relationship that dims you, or the expectations that were never yours to begin with. It's that subtle, powerful act of choosing yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a sacred way. And every time you do that, you come home to yourself. Your body knows, your spirit knows, and so does your skin, your smile, your whole presence. When we are out of alignment, everything becomes effortful. We try to look happy instead of being happy. We try to appear calm while we're unraveling inside. And all that pretending, it takes a toll. It wears us down. But when we're in alignment, there's a lightness, a flow, a kind of grace that's impossible to fake. People notice it without even knowing what they're seeing. They just feel it. It's the difference between you look good and you feel good to be around. And here's something else we don't talk about enough. Alignment is a practice. It's not a one-time decision. It's 100 small choices a day to stay true. It's asking, does this feel like truth or like performance? It's noticing when your body tenses at a yes that should have been a no. It's realizing that being spiritually aligned doesn't mean being at peace all the time. It means being real and real is radiant. There's something deeply spiritual about tending to your integrity. It's not just about being honest, it's about being whole. The wholeness that comes from saying, this is who I am, and I won't abandon her anymore. And when you begin to live from that place, when you prioritize your peace, your values, your joy, your body responds. Not just in years added to your life, but in life added to your years. That's the glow people are seeing. That's the youthfulness they can't quite name. I've seen people grow more radiant in their 40s, 50s, 60s than they ever were in their 20s. Why? Because they stopped dimming themselves to fit in. They stopped apologizing for their boundaries. They stopped shrinking their spirit to meet someone else's comfort level. And in that reclaiming, they didn't just become more vibrant, they became lighter. And that lightness is magnetic. We carry so much more than we realize, not just in our minds, but in our bodies, our breath, our bones. Old hurts, quiet grudges, past versions of ourselves, we drag them with us day after day like invisible weights. And even though no one else can see them, they show up in the tightness around our eyes, in the heaviness in our voice, in the way our shoulders curl in like we're protecting something tender. Over time, those burdens age us, not just physically, but spiritually. Letting go doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It doesn't mean denial or erasure. It means we stop allowing the past to hold the pen in writing our future. It's an act of release, not weakness, a sacred unburdening. It's standing in front of the mirror and choosing to put down the pain you've been carrying, not because it didn't matter, but because you matter more. Forgiveness isn't always about the other person. Sometimes it's about setting yourself free. There is a quiet kind of aging that happens when we hold on to pain. It hardens us. It creates an inner tension that leaks into every corner of our being. We clench our jaw. We armor our hearts. We live in a state of low-grade defense. And that takes energy. Energy we could be using to create, to connect, to laugh with our whole body. Emotional weight doesn't just slow us down, it dulls our glow. But when we let go, truly let go, something extraordinary happens. Our face softens. Our eyes stop scanning for danger. Our breath deepens. And people notice. They say things like, "You look lighter," or "You seem more at ease." What they're really sensing is your nervous system coming out of fight or flight. They're feeling the peace you've made with your story. That peace, that's what youth feels like in the soul. Letting go is a process. Sometimes we have to forgive the same person 100 times, or ourselves 1,000. Sometimes the grief sneaks back in and surprises us, and that's okay. The goal isn't to forget, it's to stop bleeding from wounds that should have scarred. It's to sit with the pain, honor it, and then lovingly ask it to move aside so we can breathe again. We live in a culture that tells us to hustle, to grind, to push through. But the real healing, it happens in stillness, in rest, in that brave, quiet moment when we say, "I don't want to carry this anymore." Whether it's shame, regret, betrayal, or a dream that didn't come true, there's holy ground in releasing it. There's divinity in saying, "I've cried over this enough. Now I choose joy." And joy doesn't mean everything's perfect. It means we've made peace with the imperfect. It means our spirit has room again, room to dance, to feel, to take up space. That's why people who've done the work of emotional release often look younger. It's not magic. It's not superficial. It's just that they're not being held down by invisible chains anymore. There's a lightness in their walk, a softness in their voice. They've remembered who they are under all the pain. Joy gets underestimated. We think of it like frosting, nice to have, but not necessary. But what if joy isn't the extra, but the essence? What if joy is actually one of the most rebellious, courageous things you can choose in a world that so often feels heavy, fractured, and fast? In a culture addicted to outrage and comparison, joy becomes a radical act of spiritual resistance. It says, "I will not let the darkness define me." It says, "I still believe in light." We're conditioned to believe we have to earn our joy, that we have to work for it, strive for it, suffer first. But joy doesn't need a permission slip. It's not a reward, it's a practice. It's sacred defiance. It's reaching for laughter when the world tells you to stay serious. It's dancing in your kitchen when no one's watching. It's letting delight live in your body even when your heart has known grief. And people who make space for joy, they don't just live longer, they live brighter. There's something childlike, not childish, but childlike about joy. It brings us back to wonder, to curiosity, to presence. When we're truly joyful, we're not overthinking our to-do list or spiraling in self-doubt. We're in the moment, fully, deeply. And you know what happens when you spend more time in the present? You stop rehearsing pain. You stop dragging yesterday's wounds into today's light, and your nervous system thanks you. So does your face. Joy is an anti-aging elixir, but not in the way magazines talk about it. It's not about looking younger. It's about being more alive. And that aliveness, it radiates. It shows up in your laugh lines, your posture, your presence. People who choose joy, even in the small, quiet ways, have a magnetism that can't be bought. They sparkle, not because their life is easy, but because they've decided not to let the hard part steal everything good. And let's be clear, joy doesn't mean ignoring pain. It's not toxic positivity. It's not slapping a smile over suffering. Real joy includes grief. It includes loss. It knows the full weight of the world and still dares to dance, still dares to sing, still dares to throw open the windows and say, I'm still here. I'm still choosing life. That's the kind of joy that heals us. That's the kind of joy that changes our face, our energy, our world. Joy also deepens connection. When we laugh, when we play, when we allow ourselves to experience delight, we let others see the most unguarded parts of us. And those moments, they build bridges. They dissolve isolation. They remind us we're human. They remind us we're allowed to feel good, even when life is uncertain. And when people feel safe to be joyful around you, it says something powerful about your energy. It says you are a safe place for light to land. In a world that glorifies burnout and cynicism, joy is a rebellion. It says, I will not become hardened. I will not become bitter. I will stay soft enough to feel wonder. And that softness, it keeps us supple. It keeps us open. It keeps us young in the ways that matter most. Not wrinkle-free, but free. Not flawless, but luminous. The kind of youth that can't be bottled or bought, only cultivated breath by breath, moment by moment. And so maybe the secret to looking young isn't in a jar or a juice cleanse. Maybe it's in belly laughs, in spontaneous gratitude, in choosing not to postpone joy. Because when you decide that your joy matters, not someday, but now, you step into a radiance that no one can dim. And that's not just youthful, that's holy. There's a moment, quiet, subtle, when you realize you're tired of performing, not just in the obvious ways like keeping up appearances or posting curated smiles online, but in the deeper ways. You're tired of saying yes when your whole body says no, tired of playing roles to make other people comfortable, tired of twisting yourself into shapes that don't fit anymore. And in that moment, something sacred stirs. The desire to just be, to show up as you are, not as who you think you need to be. Performance takes energy. Presence restores it. When we perform, we're constantly scanning, calculating, adjusting. Is this enough? Am I too much? Do they approve? But when we drop the mask, when we show up grounded in our truth, something shifts. We stop spending energy on appearances and start investing it in authenticity. And let me tell you, nothing makes you glow like being at peace with who you are. Living authentically doesn't mean you're perfect. It means you're integrated. It means your inside matches your outside. You laugh when something is funny. You cry when something hurts. You say what you mean. And that congruence between your values and your actions, your words and your energy, creates an ease in your body. Your muscles aren't tense from holding it all in. Your skin isn't stretched from trying to be someone else. You just soften, and that softness is magnetic. The world trains us to perform. We're taught to be polite instead of honest, agreeable instead of assertive, polished instead of present. But performance keeps us disconnected from ourselves and from others, and disconnection always leaves residue. It weighs us down. It shows up in our bodies as fatigue, in our eyes as dullness, in our spirit as numbness. Presence, on the other hand, brings color back to our cheeks. It's like spiritual circulation. Everything flows better when you're being real. Authenticity isn't just a feeling, it's a practice. It takes courage to speak your truth. It takes humility to admit you're wrong. It takes self-trust to rest when the world tells you to hustle. But every time you choose presence over performance, you come home to yourself. And when you're truly at home in your skin, it shows, not in some superficial, airbrushed way, but in a grounded, soul-deep kind of way that people can feel before they even see. The most radiant people I know aren't the ones who never age. They're the ones who have nothing to prove. They're rooted, they're embodied, they're not trying to be liked. They're busy being true. And because of that, their energy isn't fragmented, it's whole. That wholeness is what gives them presence. That presence is what gives them glow. And that glow, it lasts longer than any serum on the shelf. When you choose sacred presence, you invite others to do the same. Your honesty makes room for theirs. Your softness gives them permission to exhale. And in a world so addicted to performance, your authenticity becomes a beacon. People don't just admire you, they trust you. They feel safe around you. They feel seen. And that kind of connection, that deep, unfiltered resonance, keeps your spirit alive and youthful. So if someone asks, what's your secret? Maybe the answer is this. I stopped trying to impress and started trying to belong. To myself first, I chose presence over performance. And in doing so, I found peace. And that peace, it's what's keeping me young. There are mornings when you catch your reflection and pause, not because you're checking for flaws, but because something in your face feels softer, gentler, quieter. And maybe for once you're not scrutinizing what changed overnight, you're just noticing. This isn't about the absence of wrinkles or the presence of glow. It's something deeper. It's grace. And sometimes youthfulness isn't about how little you've aged. It's about how much grace you've chosen to carry. Grace is the permission to be human, to be tender, to be evolving, to be undone and still worthy. It's what happens when we stop punishing ourselves for being imperfect and start honoring our resilience. That kind of self-compassion, it changes your posture. It changes the way your eyes meet the world. It changes the way you speak to yourself in the mirror. And those changes, they leave traces. Not on your skin, but in your energy. You see, the people who radiate youthfulness often aren't the ones who've done the most to fight time. They're the ones who've made peace with it. They've stopped fighting the mirror and started blessing it. They look at their reflection and see not a battle, but a story, a life, a body that has carried them through joy and heartbreak, through seasons of becoming. They honor the laugh lines. They cradle the softening. They see grace where they used to see flaws. We live in a culture that teaches us to fear aging, but grace teaches us to love it, to see it as an unfolding, not a fading, to recognize that every year is a layer of wisdom, not wear. And when you walk through the world with that kind of reverence for yourself, for time, for this body that holds you, you don't just look youthful, you feel eternal. You glow from a place no product can reach. Grace is also how we treat others. It's the kindness we extend even when we're tired. It's the gentleness we offer to those who are learning, stumbling, trying. And the more we give it away, the more it lives in us. Grace stretches us without hardening us. It lets us love without losing ourselves. And that kind of inner spaciousness, that soft, expansive spirit, is what gives people the sense that you are somehow ageless. There is a quiet power in not needing to be the most beautiful person in the room, but choosing to be the most graceful. Grace makes space for real beauty, the kind that sees, listens, embraces, the kind that comforts and uplifts, the kind that doesn't diminish with age, but deepens. It lingers. It softens the sharp edges of life. It shows up in the way you carry yourself, the way you forgive, the way you hold others in their humanness. When you walk with grace, you stop trying to rewind time. You start living fully in this moment. You trust that your worth isn't tied to your youth, but to your presence. And something about that shift, the surrender, the softness, the groundedness, creates a different kind of beauty. One that isn't trying to impress anyone, one that is simply being. And being fully and truly is more radiant than anything else. So if you ever wonder why you look younger than your age, maybe it's not because of something you did. Maybe it's because of something you let go of. The striving, the judgment, the fear, and what's left behind? Grace. That's what people are seeing. That's what makes your reflection feel like home.